All right. All right, not yet. Okay. We are live. We are live, and I'm coming at you with five. Welcome again to another edition of Gavin Richard Presents here on channel GBoot2786. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're blessed and doing safe. We're not only on channel GBoot26, we're on my self-entitled YouTube channel, Gavin Richard. So welcome everyone again to another issue of Gavin Richard Presents. And we are blessed as always and happy to have our guest and friend to the channel, Brother Shawn James, author extraordinaire of books such as The Man Crisis and the John Haynes series. Shawn has written over 75 books. You guys have probably seen his YouTube videos from his self entitled YouTube channel, where he discusses many events from beta and alpha males to the man crisis here in the United States, as well as other political and world events, racial issues, and we're privileged. We always value. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Couldn't be better. Life is treating me good so far. So, if you're living, you're achieving. So you're breathing, you're achieving, as they say. Uh, So, Shawn, just getting into it. Well, before we start, let me just do a few plugins for Shawn. You can check out his books, and I have them in the chat as always. Amazon.com sells many of Shawn's books from the SJS Directive. Is it Directive or Direct?
SJS Direct Imprint.
SJS Direct Imprint. Yeah. Uh, he's got a book that's coming out now. Was it Eternal Night?
Yes, Eternal Night and a book called Eastern Blast from the Past. They're going to be coming this November on this Halloween. So it's around the fall. Those are the two fall books. And I'll
Just oh, go ahead, finish, Shawn.
that's those are the two books that are going to be coming this fall: Eternal Night and Eastern Blast from the Past. And you can pre-order the Kindle versions right now. I'm going to leave a link to that in the chat. You can pre-order the you can order them Eternal Night right now on Kindle, and you can also pick up the paperback on Halloween. And I also have Eastern Blast from the Past, which is also coming this November or Black Friday, if we have a Black Friday. This book will be coming on Black Friday, and this one will feature the first Eastern comic by Bill Walko. So both of these books are the fall catalog, and you can pick up the spring catalog books of ISIS, the Main Event, and John Haynes, the Man with Nothing to Lose, right now. So you can pick up those books right now. You can pick up ISIS, the Main Event, and John Haynes, the Man with Nothing to Lose, right now.
All right, cool. And also the Man Crisis, which is
Yes,
over 500 copies so far.
yes. 300. I mean, 300. I mean, 300 so far, I think, or 400. It was 400. 400 so far.
Okay, 400. All right.
400 going on 500.
Well, that's great, man. Keep pushing it out. Speaking of which, family, I also have a book that's going to be coming out. I'm hoping to get out before the end of the year, and I think I'm going to just go ahead and self-publish it. Uh, I won't say too much on it. Shawn knows about it though, so
Yeah, I
it's
know
just,
about it.
yeah, it's just taking a lot of time when you write. I give you a hint; it is nonfiction, and those can take. Shawn, you know about this because it took. I mean, how many years did it take you to write the Man Crisis? If you could share.
It took me over 10 years to do the research on it. It took me over 10 years to do the research. And it took me 6 months to write. It took me over 12 years to do the research on it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, that takes a lot of time. Now, thankfully, we are in the internet age now where we can get our sources and so forth quickly. But when I did Katrina, that required eyewitness accounts, and while I was just, it wasn't just sources from the internet, and I had to gather that, then work out how I was
Yeah.
going to as what stays in, what stays out, because it's just like doing, I guess, a movie. I guess when you can film, you have directors that may film certain scenes that are in the script, but they don't make the final cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Shawn, we're gonna get right into it tonight. We're going to be talking about this story that broke from Newsweek. If you guys probably, if you have seen this or probably haven't heard, Joe Biden has not picked who his candidate will be. He will make that decision after the election. Uh, he hasn't decided yet, but of course, there's been a lot of speculation.
Okay. Seems to be a bit of a lag. Seems to be a bit of a lag.
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I got kicked out when I was trying to share my thing. Sorry about that, guys. For a second, let's see here.
I can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what happened. I was actually just trying to share this clip, and I got kicked out so of my own studio. So, but everybody could hear me. So let me just share the article. I was talking about Joe Biden. Let me put that up right quick. But what's up, Farside fan? Farside fan says, "Good evening, guys. Both of you provide good content on your videos.
No,
Thank
thank you.
Yes, yeah, that's what it's about. I'm glad that you guys enjoy this, but also we're trying to, of course, there's a lot of people need a voice right now for things that they don't have, and mainstream media or lamestream media, as it's called, it has not done a great job. But this was in Newsweek. If you guys can see that. Joe Biden dismisses diversity in African American community as he launches ad targeting black voters. And uh, long story short, Sean, they were talking about he was launching a campaign to reach out to the black vote, and the presumptive Democratic nominee faced criticism for saying the African American community largely lacked diversity of thought. He told NPR's Lulu Garcia Navarro on Thursday that he would move on extending the temporary protected status program on his first day in office that includes providing protections to Cubans in Florida, prompting him to compare two minority groups. What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things, Biden said. He noted that the Latino community in Florida will have a very different attitude towards immigration than there may be in Arizona. He says, goes further on that Black Americans overwhelmingly lean Democrat in elections, and Biden holds a lead on the demographic over Trump. In a new ad released on Thursday, Biden urges Black Americans to vote stand up to Trump in the same way previous generations stood up to violent racists. We choose to bring back justice, respect, and dignity to this country. We choose Joe Biden to lead us all towards that American promise together. It's been noted among young black voters that Joe Biden, many people are not enthusiastic of Joe Biden, including yours truly. According to this NBC Wall Street Journal poll, which I doubt, they say 80% of support among black voters Joe Biden has, and that poll was released on July 15th. Although NBC noted he has work to do among black voters. It's a long way till November, Sean. So, just quickly, what do you think? I know you've talked about Joe Biden before, but I feel that, and you've probably said this before, that the Democratic Party takes the African American community for granted. But what do you think of these comments by Joe Biden?
Well, these comments really show us a candidate who is clearly out of touch with the issues of the black community. And again, shows us a candidate who truly just takes black people for granted. And when I look at Joe Biden, I see a guy who thinks that he has the black vote in the bag. His handlers are trying to tell him that he has a problem, and he's trying to approach it with old methods that worked maybe back in the 90s during the Clinton era, but they're just not going to work right now. He's clearly out of touch with everything. I mean, he's still thinking that it's 1994 as I see it in his mind. He doesn't see that the younger voters don't see any incentive to go to the polls because he's not bringing any tangibles
Next
to the
ringtone,
table, and he's not bringing anything tangible that they could be concerned about. I mean, most black men and women like myself, We are thinking about jobs. We are thinking about economic empowerment. We are thinking about Black economic empowerment. And here he is talking to Hispanics about these subjects and then talking about giving Hispanics rewards, but he's not talking about Black people. And the way he talks to Black people is extremely paternalistic and condescending. He's thinking, oh, Black people are just a so-called monolith. And as a guy who has written books about various parts of the Black community, I can tell you the Black community is not a monolith. And he thinks Hispanics are supposed to be so diverse. And I'm guaranteeing you that's coming from a racist perspective of different countries and different cultures. And he's not coming at Black people like that because he only sees Black people through the white supremacist lens he created. And in that lens, the only Black people who he sees are the welfare queens, the thugs, and anything street and hood related. So he doesn't see other working class Black people or regular class Black people out here, or Black people from different areas and different communities. All he sees is the monolith because that's the stereotype he's used to. And it was that stereotype that he used to go out here and create the 94 crime bill and the 3 strikes and you're outlaw. So Joe Biden practically shot himself in the foot. And the more he talks, the more he implodes his own campaign. And it's just a matter of time before he practically destroys himself. And that's why they keep him off the air and keep him from talking.
Yeah. Well, I think absolutely. I feel like he has continuously put his foot in his mouth. For ever since the time he announced he was going to be running, he states that he's going to have a female as his vice presidential candidate. And if he hadn't learned from Sarah Palin or Hillary Clinton's election, a lot of Americans, and this is just my observation, this doesn't necessarily mean 100% how I feel. A lot of people, Americans especially, do not want a female in office, in higher office. They don't want a female boss. And some women, a lot of women, don't like that either. They don't like having female bosses. And yet alone, if you're talking about having a female as president, and then you're talking about as vice president, who will eventually be president, because this is just my feeling. If he did win, Sean, I don't think Joe Biden would finish out a 4-year term, given his age and health.
I don't think he'd finish out a month. I don't think he's
Right.
going to make it to the inauguration.
Right, and I think what's going to happen is he would then pick whoever the nominee is going to be, which would be a female, because they're talking about Kamala Harris, and I think she would be awful based off her record as AG. I'm not sold on Susan Rice, and of course, you know about Susan Rice. She was an ambassador to under Barack Obama, but she also, I guess, became more famous because she called the army on Snoop Dogg when he came at Gayle King. But yeah, I don't think he would finish out a month, and I think whoever the female president is going to be, and I think it may be a lesbian female, because that's what they really want. They want the first gay president. They want the first woman president, and I think they're going to be the one that's determining policy, and that's really going to cause an uproar. If you think people were racist towards Barack Obama, I can't wait to see what's going to happen with this if this happens. But this is a long way till November, and I honestly don't think Joe Biden is going to win, just based off the way that the media, the same media tactics that they're doing from 2016.
And the sad part is like they haven't learned anything from 2016. The left is still trying to use the same approaches that killed Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016, not understanding that the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result. And the sad part is they had 4 years to learn from their mistakes. And here they are trying to do the exact same thing and expect a different result. I mean, this is one of those campaigns that is an easy win if you understand how to present your argument. And sadly, Democrats have not presented an argument of what they're going to offer differently outside of, we're about diversity and we're going to bring in this female vice president. And they don't understand this is a approach that has failed ever since 1984 with Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro when they took on Ronald Reagan. And we saw how that ended in 84, where practically Walter Mondale only won 1 state and Reagan landslided with 49 states. And then they go out here and apply this exact same approach, not seeing that, oh, the Sarah Palin, John McCain failed, or that the Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine failed for the exact same reason. And they don't understand that some of the largest voting blocs, white women, don't want to vote for a woman because many women do not like female leaders, because female leaders, they get jealous of those women having power. And
Right.
many of these racist white women, if they see Joe Biden come out here with a Kamala Harris or Susan Rice, those white supremacist white women are going to get even more heated. And they're not going to be too happy about a black woman being in a power position above them. And that's going to drive them to even vote for Donald Trump in larger numbers. So in their attempt to try to appear to be so diverse and so progressive, they don't understand how this country runs or the foundations of white supremacy in this country, and how Donald Trump won the election in 2016 because of white women in a majority voting for him, whether it be 53 to 60%. And all Joe Biden would do by announcing a female vice president is increase those numbers to an even larger demographic, because it doesn't matter if it's Susan Rice or Kamala Harris. White women, and most women, they get jealous of other women when they see them in power positions, when they see them in positions where they will be the center of attention. And when it comes down to female leadership, I don't think we have any women out here who can do the role of the president, because, like I stated in the man crisis, the typical female, what they do whenever they're pressed and put under pressure, like when they have these teenage boys in these single mother households, their coping mechanisms are to shut down. And we saw this happen with the mayor of Chicago. We see this happen with the mayor of Seattle and the female police commissioner in Seattle. So a lot of people want to talk about we need a woman president, but these women just aren't equipped for that pressure. They're not equipped for that stress. And that may sound sexist and offensive to some of these women, but when I look at these women who cannot even handle their sons when they become teenagers in these single mother households, and I see these mayors and these governors and the female governors in certain cases like Gretchen Whitmer falling apart in the face of pressure as related to this COVID-19. Here we have the country in the middle of a major crisis, and what the Democrats have to offer is a man who can barely function and may not even make it to inauguration day, and they're offering a offer of a female leader who will not be able to function at any sort of test. So we have no real leader, no real platform, and that's really embarrassing when you consider you had 4 years to come up with something, and in the middle of a pandemic crisis, we don't have any sort of leadership, any sort of direction from the Democrats, or any sort of plan to deal with, one, COVID-19, or two, rebuilding the economy in a pandemic, or any sort of economic direction for the country. We don't have any of the people with a plan or an infrastructure for doing things. We have a lot of talkers who talk a good game. And even with Joe Biden, his talking, he's practically putting his foot in his mouth and practically killing his own campaign. He's digging his own grave. And I said he was going to be Walter Mondale, and sadly, he's turning into Walter Mondale right before our very eyes.
Yeah, well, I wasn't alive in '84, so I didn't know who the hell Walter.
I know who he is. He was Jimmy Carter's vice president. And if everybody does their research, that was a massacre. I mean, Walter Mondale came out here just like what's happening right now. He was the vice president under Jimmy Carter. He wanted to run against Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan ran the Morning in America campaign, and Walter Mondale was proposing increasing taxes and other liberal policies, and he practically got destroyed in 1984 on election day because the economy was doing well, and Reagan had a large supporter base of not only Republicans, but he also had a support base of Democrats, and they practically destroyed him. He lost all 49 states in what was one of the worst landslides since Richard Nixon and George McGovern. And this is what's happening with Joe Biden. And what's more embarrassing is is that he has an opportunity to present a platform against one of the weakest candidates in history. And these people are so in their feelings, they can't come up with a platform to go against this candidate. I mean, Donald Trump is one of the most beatable candidates, and I think I could run against him and beat him, but nobody would want to invest in me and my platform because I'm not a popular candidate. But I could present arguments that would practically steamroll this guy. And they go out here and bring out a guy because he's popular. They think he's popular, but he's practically just not qualified to do anything. And they're thinking they could probably get him through and then bring in the woman as the vice president. And I think we would be on our third worst president since Trump. And that's really not saying much because we've had some pretty bad presidents. And what the country really needs is a strong leader. And sadly, we have not had that strong leader ever since a good long time.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and this is just a map of my home state, Louisiana. Of course, Louisiana has always been, New Orleans in particular, has always leaned more to a left. We're a little bit more liberal, but of course, the rest of the state is red. But there's no way Joe Biden would pick up. I could see him picking up Louisiana and Texas. But Sean, a lot of people, and this is the actual map from what you're talking about, the 1984 election. And Reagan was actually wasn't he was a bad president in terms of how his policies
He
hurt the
wasn't that great. I mean, but for a lot of Americans, the economy was doing well. People were making good money, and people were living very well. So they were willing to give him a pass because they were living well. I mean, we still had
right.
factories here in America. We still had union jobs. I mean, all that hadn't been sent to China just yet, and we still had a manufacturing base. So he still had a good, solid base of voters. And the whole thing was he managed to pull us up out of the mess that Jimmy Carter had left and the inflation, because the 70s were pretty bad. But Jimmy Carter's presidency was the equivalent of Barack Obama's, and that was a pretty bad presidency when you compare the two. But Reagan had managed to get the economy up, and that was the thing that got him in. But and he had a good 8 years, but then George H.W. Bush, he fell apart with the 91 recession with all the sending all the jobs overseas. And because I lived through this. So
Yeah, I only lived part of it, but I wasn't thinking about politics then.
I would read the newspaper every day when I was in high school. I'd be reading about
Really?
the primaries and stuff in 1988, and I read about a lot of the different things. And I lived through that era, so I know it like the back of my hand. And it was I look at it as like the same type of massacre. And if it wasn't for COVID, we would have gotten that type of massacre because Trump was on his way to a Reagan style landslide, and most people don't even know how bad that this was going to be because that's where things were going. Had there been no COVID-19, Trump would have practically steamrolled whoever they had because they have no platform, they have no agenda, and they have no offer of tangibles to bring to the American people.
Well, yeah. Well, something. Even with the whole COVID-19 and how Trump has done, the Democrats have not done. Most of everything that I've seen from the Democrats and lately, as well as their outlets like CNN and MSNBC, they do not offer what they are not only going to do, but everything is just negative, anti-Trump this, Trump that. And if you're sitting there, my parents watch CNN all the time. You would think there was nothing. Donald Trump is the worst motherfucker that ever lived. Now, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but let's look at this realistically. And a friend pointed this out when you talk about COVID-19. Anthony Fauci has been in his position for over 36 years. Trump has only been president for 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's an experience that he's been. And we keep putting the same people and keeping the same people for periods of time that don't do anything, that don't do any better. Uh, you know, Black people have been suffering for 400 years. Donald Trump has been president for 4 years. So that's not to say that I agree with everything that the man does. I don't. But, our problems started before him and our problems are going to be going on after him. We need protections that are in place. We need, tangibles. And everything that I've seen from all of these congressmen, especially in the Congressional Black Caucus, you and I have been very critical of them. Everything they offered, if you look at Elijah Cummings, the last things he tweeted, back in 2019 was was pro dreamers against treatment of immigrants, illegal immigrants. That way, they're not even legal to be in this country, but black people have been legal in this country for hundreds of years, and we don't get the same treatments. And our congressional black leaders who are there, they don't do shit.
Yeah. And that is the big problem. I mean, everybody wants to get mad at Donald Trump. Everybody wants to hate on Donald Trump. Now, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, and I don't believe he's qualified to be president, but we, the people, did pick him, and we have to take responsibility for picking this man to become our president. We can't go on the air and keep bashing this man who's only been here for, what, 4 years, when we've had people who've been here, like Joe Biden, for nearly 50 years. We've had Nancy Pelosi and many other people who've been there for decades. And they had an opportunity to solve many of these problems. And they don't even see how this is making them look worse, because the more you attack him, the stronger it makes his arguments appear. This is an argument I've been making for the last 3 years. It's like, the more you attack him, the stronger he becomes. And the stronger he becomes because you had an opportunity to do something about this. And you chose to go out here instead of helping black people. You thought you had black people in the bag. You thought you had black people sewed up. You thought you had the black vote sewed up. And now you're starting to see that you don't have the black vote in the bag, and you don't have the white female vote in the bag either, because it was the white female vote that put Donald Trump in the White House in the first place. And you're sitting there thinking, oh, we can get this. It's like, no, you're not connected with the people. And that's one of the problems that the left has, is that they're not listening to people. They don't understand the concept of 90% listening and 10% talking. They spend 90% talking and telling you what they want to do, not understanding it's about you listening to what tangibles we are telling you we want. You represent us. We don't represent you. And this is something that they don't understand. It's like they think that they have, because they've been in this job for so long, they take their constituencies for granted. They take people for granted. And they take this country, I believe, for granted. And they sit there and they talk about, oh, Donald Trump is this great evil. They have him they've demonized him.
Personification of evil.
They've turned him into Satan practically.
Right.
And I look at that and I said to myself, that's just an exaggeration. How is he Satan when you use the same tactics on black men? You use the same tactics I use on black men to make us monsters. But we look at this and we go, what did you do? What are you doing? What are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? I mean, telling me that the other guy's bad is not an argument. It's the same thing that the beta male does when he sees a girl out here with a thug or a bad boy. What he does is he runs to the parents talking about how bad this guy is, and all that does is make the girl want him more, because he sits there and he's making this case, and that's getting her the attention she wants, and it makes the guy appear to be more attractive because she's getting attention from it. And with this Donald Trump bashing that they do in the media constantly, all it does is make him appear to be not only more attractive, but it makes him appear to be the voice of reason, the voice of sanity, the voice of logic. And that's really the scary part about this, that many on the left aren't really thinking about. Their over-emotional overreactions are practically the thing that are their undoing. And that's the thing that's undoing them, because they're not thinking critically about Donald Trump, and they're not thinking critically about what tangibles they have to offer, nor are they thinking critically about the mistakes they made in the 2016 election, because here they are making the exact same mistake once more, not understanding that the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing and expecting a different result.
Yes. Let me just share this with you guys too before we move on to our next topic. This was from The Hill, Sean. It's entitled MSNBC Producer Pins Scathing Exit Letter, Ratings Model Block Diversity of Thought and Content. And I just want to play the video right quick. This is from The Hill.
Producer Ariana Peccary recently resigned from MSNBC with an open letter accusing the news network of predicating its editorial process on ratings and alleging that its model, quote, blocks diversity of thought and content because the networks have incentive to amplify fringe voices and events. The producer for MSNBC's second most watched program, The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, wrote, quote, "I don't know what I'm going to do next exactly, but I simply couldn't stay there anymore. My colleagues are very smart people with good intentions. The problem is the job itself. It forces skilled journalists to make bad decisions on a daily basis."
Are you aware that actually when this first started, there are 2.1 million people in the United States in long-term care facilities that represent 0.6% of the population. But on July 17th, that 0.6% of the population represented 53.3% of all the deaths that occurred in the United States from COVID. And that's because governors are not doing their job.
We're being villainized as small businesses in general, that we're responsible for the spread, but over 50% of the deaths are coming from places that are supposed to be under governors.
I understand, and there's no question, Frank, what you're saying about long-term care facilities, I'm not questioning it. We did the wrong job by the most vulnerable people. And even though, obviously, the oldest and the most fragile will die the most in a situation like this, it doesn't mean you did it the right way. The only thing I would caution you about.
You're knocking Trump because of the total numbers.
I'm knocking Trump because he's not doing, hold on.
53% of the deaths, 53.3% of the deaths, 0.6% of the population.
Frank.
Bottom line, that's a stat that nobody's talking about.
Frank. Watch your mouth on television. But
Sorry, sir.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That, I get the passion. What I'm saying is this. One, death isn't the only metric. I'm not blaming the president for the pandemic. I'm not blaming the president when people die, except there's a lot more they could be doing. But you're also allowing yourselves to be a little politicized on this, Frank. I didn't mention the president. It has nothing to do with the president.
I am the least political person
you brought it up in this interview, and it had no place in it. So that wasn't on me. That's on you, Frank. I'm just saying be careful, because if you get seen as a political actor, then you're going to get treated as a political combatant. And I don't know that you want.
And that's okay. Hey, Chris, that's okay with me, because the people that have known me for my entire life, I'm 51 years old, know that I never had a political bone in my body. I couldn't give two craps about politics. I thought blue states were bordered by water and red states weren't. That's simple. Okay, bottom line is, and that is true. Everybody that knows me, and
all right. Well, I thought that one would be a little interesting, but yeah, but you saw from the first video, and even with that video on, that, yeah, the media does try to hype this as, you know, a way, I guess, to get at Trump. And on top of that, when you're talking about what happened with the producer leaving, when she talked about scathing them for basically hyping up stats as well as to push, I'm trying to think of the right term, but I guess push terms and so forth that they know will incite the audience. This is what media does now. This is what CNN, MSNBC, and yes, even on the right side, Fox News has always done that, except Fox News just lies more and more often. But Shawn, you want to take a quick take on it?
Okay, what I heard from that MSNBC producer is similar to what I heard from a reporter in the New York Times, and they mirror each other in talking about how far the far left has gone in terms of tone with the media. And they've also brought up points about how our journalism system has been compromised, because instead of giving us facts and allowing us to draw our own observations and conclusions in the so-called news, we're getting this tabloid style journalism, which practically slants everything towards a singular viewpoint. And sadly, this is the end result of that failed telecommunications bill of 1996, which consolidated all of American media in the hands of a few oligarchs. And now we're seeing that these oligarchs, because they are upset about the election of Donald Trump, they have allowed the media platforms to go from being places of objective journalism to subjective opinion. And we're not getting news anymore. Instead, we're getting propaganda. And really good, hardworking journalists out here who want to present facts to people from an objective perspective, they're getting frustrated and getting fed up, because they know that this isn't news. They know that this is basically propaganda. And this whole anti-Trump propaganda is practically it's just very grating to watch, because you can clearly see the bias in the reports, and you can see all of this bias to the point where it just becomes almost like a comedy or a caricature in certain cases. I mean, this is just not news. I mean, news is what I used to watch back in the day, where they would present objective facts. I remember the days of 2020 and Primetime Live when they did real investigative journalism. But yeah, they used to do real investigative journalism. They used to present facts to people. They used to present both sides. I mean, when I wrote The Man Crisis, I went out of my way to go to the feminists and look at their side, and I went to men and looked at their side. So I didn't want a one-sided argument in my book, The Man Crisis. But we don't see that with today's journalists, because we have a lot of what people call these SJWs in journalism. They've been indoctrinated into this far left culture, and they believe that their idea of the truth is the truth, and their opinion is supposed to be the truth, not understanding that a good journalist, they want to bring the facts to the viewer. They want to look at both sides of the argument, and they won't put a finger to a keyboard until they get both sides of the argument. I mean, when I wrote The Man Crisis, I spent, again, 12 to 15 years of research, because I wanted to get both sides of the argument on nice guys and beta males before I went out here and put fingers to the keyboard, because I wanted people, when they go out and picked up the book, to be able to see the facts being presented to them. And then when they would go out here and do their research, they would go, oh, that's a fact right there. And there's nothing, this isn't some book for some kook. This is something that has been researched and thought out. And we're not seeing that with today's journalists. And sadly, I mean, this is not just here. I mean, I've heard about horror stories at websites like Vox and Vice and many others, where people are seeing that we're not getting journalism anymore. And I applaud those reporters for quitting and those producers for walking away, because we're heading into a really bad place with our journalism.
We're already at it.
I mean, we're there, because we have tabloid style, sensationalized, and this type of reporting has really, it's what led to the panic buying in March when the coronavirus first started. It led to racial attacks against Chinese people, and this type of reporting, we really need to call this out, because I mean, the new black media, at least I will say this, guys, in the new black media, when they go out here, they report facts primarily. They do their research. They give us both sides in many cases. I mean, guys like Jason Black, Professor Black Truth, many others, they don't just come with opinion. They try to bring that fact to you. And we're not seeing that from today's mainstream media. And it's really because a lot of people watch this stuff. It's making people paranoid. It's terrifying people. And I believe that it has really made the whole COVID-19 situation worse. And it was sadly one of the parts that I believe that led to a lot of the problems we're having right now, is this media presenting this sensationalized aspect of things. I believe people would have been a lot better off had we had a more objective news media, because the sensationalism is what drove, again, the panic buying. It's driving a lot of the fear. And these guys are doing this for ratings, not understanding how unethical that is. Edward R. Murrow wouldn't do this, and I don't think Walter Cronkite would do it either, because they understood how important the journalists are and the integrity of journalism is to the stability of America. But today's journalists who work for the oligarchs, they don't think about the stability of the country. They're so caught up in their emotions about Donald Trump that they don't understand how they're doing more damage than Trump could ever do on his own, because this fear mongering and this fear is the thing that is practically tearing the country apart. And the reports that they're purporting and the exaggerated way they're reporting it is making things worse instead of better.
Most definitely. And I think that, we're at the point, we've been at the point for a long time of that media basically is not about truth and reporting. It's about sensationalism. And, it was always like that. Even as far back as the 1920s, when you had William Hearst, who covered Patty Arbuckle trial. But of course, we all know that was what we called yellow journalism. And, you know, as a kid growing up, we always had sort of tabloids, like you would see the National Enquirer right there, you know, or the Sun or whoever, they would have some type of sensationalized story. Nobody took it seriously. But now it's on mainstream media. It's CNN, it's MSNBC. I mean, CNN has been a joke with their shows and ratings. You know, I think they're actually lowly rated, but now because of this whole Trump thing, that's the reason why Don Lemon is still on. Remember, Don Lemon was voted as the worst journalist in
I can't even
2014.
call him a journalist.
No, I know, but remember when he worst newscaster, whatever award he got. But remember, this was a guy who said that plane in Malaysia that disappeared, that it went into a black hole. He said black people were okay with stop and frisk. He also went to Ferguson and said he smelled weed. But and I'm going to say it too. But CNN, of course, they have him. They have Anderson Cooper. Although I think Anderson Cooper, he's much more professional than what Don Lemon was. But of course, they're both also homosexual, and
Yeah.
CNN, I know they push a lot of that. You know, so that's another reason why he's still there. You know, so you know, it's a far left thing. And then Chris Cuomo, of course, his brother is Andrew Cuomo. His father was Michael Cuomo.
Mario Cuomo.
Mario.
He was the
Mario?
governor of New York in the 1980s.
Mario, right?
Yeah, Mario Cuomo.
Okay, Mario. Yeah, I remember. I don't remember him, but yeah, I knew that his father, he died a few years ago, I believe. Yeah. So yeah, it's insane. But yeah. So the other thing, I guess we were getting into that, but I do, just before we jump to that next topic, what do you make though? Because when we talk about Trump, of people saying, you know, we got to vote because I'm not voting for Trump. I'm not voting for Joe Biden. I'm just voting against Trump. You know, I'm gonna go vote against Trump because we need something better.
That's not really a good argument for voting. I mean, voting is something you do in order to achieve tangible resources for your community. I mean, the first three words of the Constitution are "we the people." So voting on that type of perspective is a really weak argument. And it's basically people instilling fear in you so that they can get your vote without having to give you something in return. I mean, if Donald Trump is so bad as people allege, then the other side needs to talk about what tangibles they're going to offer the American people. I mean, if you want my vote, as I see it, where is my job? Or where is a way to get SJS Direct books into public schools? I mean,
where's reparations?
Where is reparations? Yeah, where are the tangibles that you are going to offer American people in exchange for their vote? You just can't come here and say, oh, the other guy is bad, because they said that during the 92 election with George H.W. Bush. They said that with George Bush Jr. They said, people keep saying this, and that's not an argument. I mean, if you're a critical thinker like myself, you're sitting there going, where are my tangibles? Where are my reparations again? Was my job for me? And where are the access to public schools as related to book sales for books like my SJS Direct imprint? Where are the tangibles that you are going to offer me? Where are the tangibles you're going to bring to my table that I can get after Election Day? And the days of you giving me a slick slogan like hope and change, those days are over. I mean, the internet has changed the game as related to voting. Social media has changed the game as related to voting. And that's why we see this censorship and crackdown on places like Twitter and Facebook, because the 2016 election showed us that people are now becoming more educated, more informed, and they're just not giving out votes for free like they did during the days when Bill Clinton was on MTV and on the Arsenio Hall show when I was in high school. The days of that type of pandering are practically over. If a candidate wants to win an office like president or mayor or governor, he's going to, or she is going to have to offer up a platform for tangibles and agenda for delivering those tangibles.
You got to be like FDR.
Yeah, and a timeline for establishing those tangibles to the American people. If you're not establishing an agenda for those tangibles or listening to Black people for their tangibles, or you're not offering a timeline to set forth to implement this agenda and deliver those tangibles, you're not going to get any votes anymore. And many of these candidates need to understand that if they don't offer any tangibles, they're not getting any votes.
Right. I honestly think Joe Biden is going to lose by a landslide. That's my thinking of it. Just, and I know people don't want me to say that because I'm taking up for Trump. I'm not. It's not about me taking up for Trump. It's me calling
Well, you call it like it is.
what it is, and it's also we've survived worse than Trump. I mean, be honest, when people say the worst presidents of all time, you know, as I stated before, George W. Bush takes that cake for me because I'm from New Orleans and I know what he did with Hurricane Katrina. I know what he did with the Iraq War, and how we basically got thousands of young Americans killed unjustly, as well as thousands of other Iraqis that were killed unjustly. He was responsible for that. So Donald Trump, you know, we have not been. One thing I can say that's positive: we've not been in any major war.
Yeah.
As of right now, of course, we still have the war on terror, and
he's trying to wrap that up, which is one of his only positives. Is he's trying to wrap it up.
Right, and I will tell you one thing: I would like to see a candidate actually do and fix. What about the homeless situation here in this country? What about the veterans? You have countless veterans who have served this country, and they're still living under the, you know, they have no access to jobs and so forth. And, you know, I think if the only reason, like George Carlin once said this, people don't care about the homeless is because there's no money involved in that. You know, there's money involved in these different civil rights organizations like the Human Rights Campaign, which is a LGBTQ civil rights group. It's not a Black group of, and I'm about to say Black Lives Matter, but it is, as you can say, it's tied to Black Lives because Black Lives Matter is a front for LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And, you know, the countless others. That's something I would want to see a politician actually do or people do. But I think we have to be the ones that in our communities that take over everything. If you're going to vote with, like Minister Farrakhan says, vote with some common sense. Vote locally because you're more affected by that. Vote for your new DA. You know, the DA is the most powerful person in the courtroom outside of the judge. And I say that because they have the ability to decide whether or not they're going to bring forward charges. They may request, you know, for a lighter sentencing on someone that's convicted. So those things happen.
Yeah. Well, I worked with homeless people back in 2000 when I was a part of the Strive Job Readiness Program. And yeah, we don't have the resources. I mean, when I was working with that program, they said they wanted to end homelessness by 2010. And sadly, homelessness is worse. And almost 80% of the men, people who are homeless are men. And I talk about this in the man crisis. And we have no resources for getting these men back on their feet. I mean, we really don't want to invest in our men. And we don't understand that if we invest in our men, we can actually rebuild our entire economy and we can actually rebuild communities. But many people in government, they would rather spend money on social programs because they can get the block grants. They don't understand that you won't need block grants if you have taxpayers, but they don't want to answer to any taxpayers. And that's one of the big problems. I mean, I look at the homeless situation, and yes, this is just a middle finger up at all of those men and women in the armed services who serve their country. I mean, these should be the people who are first in line to get access to jobs, first in line for access to homes, first in line for access to social programs, and first in line for things like the GI Bill. I mean, this is our middle class right here. And instead of us investing in our middle class, we invest in a group of women out here. We spend $1,000 for every dollar that they spend. And that makes the country poorer when we could be making our country rich by investing in our veterans and paying them back for their service to our country. I mean, that's something that if I were running for president, I would be running on, be like trying to help a lot of these homeless veterans. And because a little bit of help that we give these guys, like I said, in the man crisis, if we give these guys 90 days worth of help, in many cases, get them a job, help them get their housing straight, get their situation straight, these guys can turn into taxpayers and pay the country back. Whereas we put money into single mothers and all they do is cost us thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in social programs. And then when their children wind up in the prison system, they cost us even more money. So investing in this one man creates one taxpayer, but investing in the woman creates more dependency. And many in government just haven't connected the dots on that. And again, the homeless crisis is one I would focus on, because the faster we get these men right, and I worked in the whole system with homeless people when I was working at AmeriCorps, and the faster you get people to work, the faster you get them back on their feet, and the faster they actually start paying into America instead of winding up being dependent on the system.
Right, most definitely, Shawn. And I'm a big supporter of that. I also think we just got to do for ourselves too.
Yeah.
If we really make things change. Change really comes from the dollar.
Yeah.
Dollar is what controls everything. It's not the vote, sadly. It's like what Dr. Claude Anderson says. Vote for what? You don't own anything. You don't control your own land, your businesses. All your money goes to other communities. If you spend it in one day, if Black people spend it maybe a couple of hours in their community, but then it's the dollars outside the community after that forever. So we don't do that. But I guess we could move on a little bit. I want to talk about this. This is a lighter subject, and I'm sure you haven't watched Ellen before. You don't care.
I have never watched Ellen.
Yeah, you don't care for her, but I did want to get your take on something right quick. But before we begin, first off, anybody in here, please like and share this video, this live stream. Please donate to the channel. You see the ticker at the bottom, Gavin Richard Esquire, or Google Pay gavin.grich1@gmail.com. Please subscribe, and also support Shawn and his books, the SJS imprint, SJS Direct imprint, his book, The Man Crisis, as well as the John Haynes series. He's got 75 books out there, y'all. Y'all got to support my man. So please do that. Now, what I was going to get at, yes, with Ellen DeGeneres, or Degenerate. This happened today. There's a reason I wanted to talk about it. Ellen, of course, God, that's an ugly woman. I thought that was Peter Pan, for instance, for a second. She's being accused of toxic work environment. The Ellen DeGeneres Show has seen some of the worst ratings in its 17-year history, as the presenter, 62, continues to be plagued by claims of a toxic work environment. According to The Wrap, the daytime talk show only garnered a 1.0 live same-day rating through the week ending July 26, which was 29% down on the same time last year, and 9% down on the previous week. Viewership for Ellen appears to have been hit hard amid shocking claims that the work culture behind the scenes has been rife with bullying, racism, and sexual harassment. And something that did happen earlier, you see the difference that makeup makes?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was reported also was that her DJ, she said she won't quit, but according to this, I'm going to play this right quick. Staffers reportedly called her Ellen Karen. This is from the Daily Mail too, guys. Okay, it's not playing. It's just taking a little while. Well, this black man, this DJ that worked for her for a few years prior, for the first 9 years, he actually complained about having a toxic work environment with Ellen, and the article actually is right there, except that the page has frozen on me right now. But Shawn, I know you just say that you don't watch Ellen at all, never followed her, but what just your thoughts about what happened in the news?
Well, what happened with Ellen is typical of any environment with females who are in charge. what's happening with Ellen right now is par for the course. Whenever you have a female, whether she be gay or straight, a lot of times they become extremely insecure. And those insecurities can lead to them becoming hostile and creating a hostile environment. And the females around them, what they do is they form cliques, they become catty, and they make the environment practically unbearable to be in. I mean, it's no different than any public school run by a female principal, or any place like a daycare or any sort of work environment that's primarily female run. And what's happening here is, after 17 years, and people are now talking about it. And the reason why they're talking about it is primarily because the ratings are at an all-time low. Now, if these ratings were high, they would have tolerated all of Ellen's unprofessional behavior. But now that ratings have declined, people in the Hollywood now feel like they can go out here and attack Ellen because they believe that she is vulnerable due to her low popularity. But this is just par for the course for any female work environment. I mean, the same thing is going on at Marvel Comics right now, and the comic book industry as a whole. You have this hostile environment created by these females because, again, when females see other females, they get jealous of other females, and they want to go out here and be very nasty and hostile, especially the head female. It's something I talked about in Spellbound regarding the queen bee. The queen bee looks to try to destroy everybody around her. And one of the things that I find interesting is that people talk about alleged sexual harassment. I have to ask, where is the Me Too movement on Ellen? I mean, the Me Too movement was running around talking about Bill Cosby needed to be taken down, all these black men need to be taken down. But here we have a white lesbian woman who was alleged to have participated in sexual harassment, and no Me Too movement talking about we need to cancel Ellen's show, we need to take Ellen out. No protest from Me Too or the alleged silence breakers. No efforts to get Ellen fired. In fact, just nothing but silence from our Me Too movement. I mean, if this Me Too movement is supposed to be about stopping sexual harassment and stopping sexual assault, you'd think they would actually include homosexuals as well in there. But we're seeing from their narrative, unless it's about a way for them to get economic resources out of either a black man or who they really want to get resources from, a rich white man, they ain't got nothing to say as related to Ellen. I mean, here's a rich white lesbian woman, and you would think you would be trying to go after her because she has participated in creating a hostile environment inside of her show. But we have nothing but silence from your Me Too movement as related to Ellen. And that's really shows, again, more of the hypocrisy of this Me Too movement, which already had its nail in the coffin as related to allegations made against Joe Biden. We already see how full of it they were there. And when this further reinforces how full of it this whole movement is. I mean, where is Rose McGowan? Where is Tanara Burke? Where are all the Me Too women as related to Ellen DeGeneres? Oh, wait, I know where they are. They're not here because going after LGBT people, that's considered a no-no from the left.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned that up, I believe someone had reported that Alyssa Milano tested COVID. Yeah, she tested positive for COVID. And also, just on a karma side, I also want to mention too, Zoe Kravitz's show, High Fidelity? I don't know. I didn't watch the bullshit. It was on Hulu. It was canceled after one season. And let's not forget the shade that she threw at Bill Cosby and Michael Jackson on that show. Guys, the reason
Well, she's reaping what she sowed. I mean,
but Ellen DeGeneres, I actually had Judge Joe Brown. What?
I didn't say anything.
Ellen.
What were you saying about Judge?
Yeah, Judge Joe Brown actually met Ellen DeGeneres. I had him on the show last week, and we talked about her. And he said and confirmed practically everything that everybody was saying because he said she was a nasty bitch. You know, he's told me that in private before, and he said she actually came up to him, wanted him to put on his asked him. It was, I guess they were at some type of party or meeting or something, and he's wearing his suit and so forth. And she actually asked him why you don't have your robe on, and he's like, "You being." He didn't know if she was being funny or serious, but he found out she was being serious. And he said, first off, it's hot, and he told her, and the second thing, you need to mind your fucking business. And most people, and a lot of people have gotten frustrated with Ellen DeGeneres, and I think it's just coming out. I don't know if she pissed off anyone in Hollywood, but I think a lot of people are just frustrated, working with her. And she's not funny. She's never.
Yeah.
I've never watched the Ellen DeGeneres special in my life. Never watched her TV show, but they put her on because she's part of that whole LGBTQ clique, and
Yeah.
she's and linked in with the feminists. He also told me something too. She hit on his wife. Uh, she and her husband, well, she and her wife actually tried to get Judge Joe's wife to I guess have a menage a trois or whatever. But she didn't look at women that way, and I think she was even feeling her up. So Ellen DeGeneres, she's been accused of doing that too. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
That shows us that she's not somebody you really want to. I mean, if she's if alleged to have done this, then yeah, where is the Me Too movement on that? I mean, this woman is doing stuff that we wanted to put Bill Cosby in jail for, but they give her a pass because her politics are right, and that's really quite troubling when you think about it. I mean, when I think about it, I mean, if she's doing stuff like this, then yeah, she needs to be dealt with, and she needs to be dealt with immediately because she really need. If you're going to punish Bill Cosby and put him in jail for this stuff, then why can't we hold her to the same standard? And that's the really troubling part, is that because her politics are right to a certain group of people, no one wants to punish her for the wrongdoing she's done. And no, again, there's no outrage, no Me Too movement, and it just shows the hypocrisy of the people on the left as related to how they talk about this woman. I mean, they just show their hypocrisy by not wanting to do anything about her. I mean, just if everybody's saying she's so disgusting, I mean, that's what they said about Bill Cosby, then why don't you show some consistency by giving her the same type of treatment you gave Bill Cosby?
Absolutely. Guys, if for you that just keep seeing the screen, I don't mean to keep it on here. I'm actually having technical difficulties. It's frozen. So I'm going to try and see if I can get out of it and start this thing back up. If you could just give me a few minutes. So if we go off, Sean, I'm going to try and come
All right.
back in. So give me a second. I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with this. So hang tight, guys. All right. I'm back. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, I don't know what happened with that one. But yeah, man. But we were just talking about Ellen DeGeneres, and let me just get out of that. I don't need to even see the video. Uh, so, but yeah, yeah, certainly the Me Too movement, as we were talking about, Sean, they've shown, um, they basically, as you stated, and I even talked about this on my podcast, and you guys check out the podcast that I have on sense, that the nail in the coffin for them was the Joe Biden scandal, because these same women like your Alyssa Milano and I believe Rose McGowan may have been a part of it, but I think it was definitely who was talking about Me Too and so forth. But when they asked her about Joe Biden, because she's tied with the Democratic Party, she says, I'm still going to support Joe Biden regardless of what he's accused of. Same thing with Tyrannosaurus Burke. That's what I call people who disrespect us, people that, are our enemies. They don't deserve our respect. That's a villain. Tamara Burke, whatever her name is, she's an open villain.
Yep.
To the black community.
She's a traitor to the black community.
Well, whenever you say it's not my job to go after white men, but you take your time to go after the R. Kellys and Bill Cosby, and you say you're going to still support Joe Biden, but Joe Biden's accused of doing some of the same things that Bill Cosby was accused of. Joe Biden is accused of touching a woman inappropriately, and I believe he's been accused of rape. Bill Clinton has been accused of rape. And I think you've talked about, did we talk on our last live stream? I could be wrong. I don't think we did, because it was the funeral was last week. While I have you on to talk about that, what did you think of, well, and I'm just adding that on to Me Too, but what did you think of Bill Clinton's comments about Stokely Carmichael?
I talked about that last week, but it was just disrespectful to Stokely. And the whole thing with those comments was like it was meant to take a dig at one of our black leaders who talked about black empowerment. So they don't have a problem with the type of guy like John Lewis, who was all about just taking the crumbs from the table. But they have a problem with the guy talking about black empowerment, because that guy is going to get in your face and hold you accountable. And he's going to demand a seat at the table and demand more than crumbs. He's going to demand a whole piece of that cake. So that dig was really disrespectful to a black leader who really was about something. And it just shows us how the left really isn't about helping black people.
Most definitely. And Stokely Carmichael was about that business. And, even John Lewis, and I give him credit for this because people say he was a nice guy. I don't think John Lewis would have appreciated the slight at Stokely Carmichael. John Lewis actually did a tribute to 20 years ago, or 22 years ago, actually, when Stokely Carmichael passed away. He actually attended a tribute to Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, because Stokely was much involved in the civil rights movement, as was John Lewis. He marched with Dr. King, was actually there in attendance at the Ebenezer Baptist Church when Dr. King did that speech, Why I'm Opposed to the Vietnam War, on April 4th, 1967, which was the exact year before his assassination. So Stokely Carmichael is a very important part of history. And I'm grateful, though, Shawn, that Bill Clinton actually did that, because now I think there was no question for black people. He opened the door to what white people expect from certain Negroes. There's a reason why, when Barack Obama was in office, Al Sharpton gets invited to the White House, but Jesse Jackson didn't, or Cornel West didn't, for that matter. There's a reason why, certain Negroes may get television roles in movies and so forth, but the brother who's outspoken is never going to get that role. So I'm glad Clinton told that secret, because now there's no doubt.
Now we know what his true colors are, so now we know what they're really about. When people show you the truth about themselves, believe it, and then start making your strategy not to deal with those people.
Right. And Bill Clinton, we should have nothing to do with him. That's why his wife, we didn't support his fucking wife. Hillary Clinton was a horrible candidate. Even if she was more qualified than Donald Trump, and technically she is, she was a bad candidate, and people did not want to see Bill Clinton back in office. And honestly, I didn't want to see him either. And I was, and it was caught by everybody too, and that's a good thing. Even white folks, like the Young Turks, who I don't like, they even caught it. Shawn, you still there?
I'm still here.
Yeah, I said they even caught it.
Yeah, they caught it. We saw what he is, and the whole thing is now that we know what he is, we know what his party is all about because that wasn't a funeral. That was just basically a campaign rally, and it also showed a hypocrisy as related to COVID-19 because here we have people talking about we can't have conventions, but you had all these people, no social distancing, no masks, and they can go to this funeral in a large group, but we can't have other types of gatherings. We see more hypocrisy here as related to the left's racism, and we see it as related to everything. So we now see who Bill Clinton is, but we saw who he was based on his laws and his policies, like the crime bill, 3 strikes and you're outlaw. I mean, he showed us who he is, but now we know who he truly is. So now black people have to just do this. Say, look, we're just going to leave you alone. We're going to leave this party alone. And the more Joe Biden keeps opening his mouth, he's going to make people leave this party alone permanently.
Most definitely. Yeah. Well, Shawn, tell everybody what other projects that you have going on. Do you have another? I know you said you're editing Eternal Night, but what about any television or any movies, scripts that you're thinking of doing?
Well, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not really doing any scripts right now, but I have done scripts in the past. I've done All About Marilyn film screenplay, and I did 26, 27 episodes of a black sitcom called All About Nikki, about a black girl in Beverly Hills. I am pondering maybe doing a screenplay on a comedy I had called Dude, Where's the Bathroom? But I don't know if I really want to do that because it's just
That's
really,
an interesting title.
yeah. It's one of those things. It's like an Ashton Kutcher type comedy that I came up with. Um, but it's about a guy trying to find his way into a bathroom, and he runs into all sorts of obstacles. But I haven't thought of doing any screenplays just yet. I mean, I right now I'm in the middle of working on Omega Black with Chris Brown, and I'm the editor on that project. We're trying to get this Indiegogo going. This one is almost, I think, 50% funded. It's 52% funded right now. We're trying to get to the finish line. I mean, it's been just a couple of days. Leave a link to Omega Black Volume 1. So you guys want to put in your pledge for that, you can put in your pledge for that. But that's what I'm working on right now. I'm finishing up the last of the 2021 SJS Direct catalog books. This is called E-Steam Cancel Vacation, and this one makes a commentary on what people call social justice warriors and cancel culture. So I've got 3 of the books together for the 2021 catalog almost. I have John Haynes, which is called Taking Care of Business, where we start to see John Haynes working with one of his new assistants, Lois Graves. We have ISIS, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, which features John Haynes. And this is a big follow-up to ISIS, Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, that's coming out in 2021. Just commissioned the artist for the cover for that, Bill Walker for the cover for that. And I've got, again, the E-Steam Cancel Vacation, which will be coming in 2021. That's what I'm working on right now. And people have been asking me to do a follow-up to the Man Crisis, and I'm pondering maybe doing a book called The Karen Crisis about all of these Karens and their behavior and giving people an insight to what makes these women act out like this. But I'm really pondering doing another screenplay, maybe doing a Dude, Where's the Bathroom? But that's all on the fence because I'm still trying to finish this Cancel Vacation. I'm like this close to finishing the 3rd act. So those are the books that are coming up, and the books that are coming up in 2021. But right now I'm promoting the fall catalog books because I want to try to get some pre-orders in for the Kindle on books like Eternal Night and E-Steam, Eternal Night and E-Steam Blast from the Past. But that's what I'm doing right now. So everything else is just like in the air. So,
well, most definitely. That's interesting. I got the book that I'm writing, and I also am trying to venture into a screenplay as well. So
yeah,
that I'm working on. But I did want to talk with you before you leave because I noted on your Facebook page, because we follow each other, that you are a wrestling fan.
yeah.
In particular, you admire AEW, although you said yesterday that they can work on their character development. Um, I wanted to know your thoughts. First off, the wrestling business in general, it seems like after the Monday Night Wars that started and Vince McMahon took over, it seemed like that really destroyed uh, the wrestling business because the competition, the main competition, which was WCW, was eliminated. And a lot of people are not interested in WWF as much, or not WWF now, it's WWE. But I have seen AEW. I've seen clips of it. I've watched it yesterday, and I've been catching on. It's very impressive. What stands out to you between AEW and Raw? And I don't think you're a Raw fan just because I don't see you commenting on it.
I like Raw to a point, but lately these days I am not too happy with Raw because the production just feels so manufactured. Because what Vince does is he wants to script everything that the wrestlers say. He wants to choreograph every move. He practically controls everything, and that sucks the energy out of the wrestling. I mean, if you compare it to AEW, where the wrestling's a lot more organic, it doesn't really flow very well. And a lot of the big problems with WWE is that everything feels so manufactured and artificial. I mean, the people don't create their own characters, and that really makes it where people they have no presence. I mean, with wrestling, it's something I was writing in ISIS, the main event, about how wrestling is done on the fly. And usually the producers come up with a segment and the wrestlers go out of their way to ad-lib as they go along. And because they're ad-libbing as they're going along, you just feel the natural energy and the natural flow. Many of these characters they're created by the wrestlers themselves, and the gimmicks are created by themselves. So that's what gives it a fresh feel and a fresh take. So it's not like that anymore with WWE. It just feels like a Hollywood production, and it feels like it has no soul. Now, AEW does really remind me of old school WCW. It reminds me of that old school feel of old WCW. NWA reminds me of a lot of old local wrestling shows, and the wrestling's a lot better because people are allowed to come up with their own characters. They're allowed to come up with their own spots. But the place that AEW could improve on, because the wrestling there is very good, but they have to work on the characters, because what made the Monday nights really competitive was the fact that they created great stories. And in order to have a great story, you need great characters. And they're starting to do some good characters like Orange Cassidy and a couple here and there. But they really need to focus on that character development, focus on developing these characters, because people need a reason to care about what they're watching. I mean, I like a lot of the wrestlers there, but we need to hear from them on the mic. We need to hear them talking to the audience, talking to people. I mean, they have a lot of guys who have good in-ring work, but they have to work on other aspects of their character, especially their personality, their voice, and they have to really focus on the psychology of their character. I mean, there are some wrestlers like Abaddon who really have good psychology, and they work very well in the ring with their psychology. They need to work on those things, and they also have to work on the mic work, because you have to talk to the audience. What made The Rock and Hulk Hogan so popular was the fact that they talked to the audience.
They had personality.
Yeah, they had a personality and charisma, something Seth Rollins in WWE doesn't have right now. He's just bland. But you have to have that charisma that gets people excited, and that's something wrestlers aren't really being taught to work on. I made that post because I listened to Vince Russo talk about some of the wrestling at AEW, and I saw what he was saying, because there's got to be more than just the ring work. There also has to be that personality, because that personality is what's going to put you way over, and that mic work is going to put you super over, because if you can talk on the mic, you've practically made yourself, a superstar. And if you can really know how to make your own catchphrases and really get people into you. I mean, they have some people who are doing that, like Big Swole and Britt Baker and Orange Cassidy just recently, but we need more guys to learn how to do this, because AEW is this close to being able to take WWE. It's just a matter of them getting their product on point. I mean, they have the foundations there, but they just need to do some finishes. Yeah. Because their show has the energy. I mean, their live show with no audience has more energy than WWE's show, and they just need to get their stuff together.
Right. I think with AEW, I've seen, I do like the obviously the lock they had last week. It was a fight, I think, in the kitchen. If I'm not,
They need more. They need more. They need more stuff like that. That Butcher and the Blade versus Young Bucks in the Falls Count Anywhere. They need more stuff like that because that's going to get the audience into it.
Big Swole is only under 5'5". She's a female wrestler.
Yeah, but she knows how to work the mic.
I think
she knows how to work the mic, and she has good presence. And you need those things in order to really get yourself out there.
One of my good friends that I graduated from Southern Law Center. He's not Southern Law Center, from Southern undergrad. He's actually a wrestler here in Louisiana, and he made his debut this past Monday. He's called Bad Business, and let me just, if I could put it on, just put it on right quick so you could take a look at it, because you guys will enjoy this. So hold on one second.
And I'm not sure what Mr. Baba Ganoush is thinking.
And he's fighting a guy actually called Baba the Ganoush when you see this. So
for concealed objects.
It's like the Conquistadors. Remember the Conquistadors?
Don't forget to still
I remember them.
In our main event, the SEC Championship on the line. In a ladder match as Michael White defends against the Wild Thing. That's still to come.
Okay, let me play his intro. Yeah,
as we heard from his comments just a little bit earlier, he is full of confidence. As we see him here, would you look at the size of this man? Bad business. Bad business. He is dressed for business, and he is here to take care of business in his debut match.
By the way, I got to do a copyright disclaimer. This is only being shared for commentary. I don't own this video.
Ganoush, I would not want to make Bad Business angry. And I'm not sure what Mr. Baba Ganoush is thinking. Well, show of power by Bad Business, just making it look easy. And Mayor is no small man by any stretch of the imagination. And Bad Business, again, just making it look easy. And right now, Mayor looking for a show of sportsmanship. You're not going to get that out of Bad Business. No, sir. Bad Business, damn near decapitating.
Got the height.
Mr. Baba Ganoush with that lariat. And now ahead of steam, and he runs him over with that shoulder tackle. Bad Business, all business with that elbow drop. Business says it's over. Oh, and I think Business picked up Baba Ganoush. He's not through with him yet. And I think it's over. And there's a rear naked choke. A rear naked choke by Bad Business. Bad Business looking to put him to sleep here. And Baba Ganoush is leading. I think Baba Ganoush is out. Baba Ganoush is out. Yes, Baba Ganoush went to sleep. What an impressive debut for Bad Business. Just absolutely
I like the fact he comes
dominating.
out with Mystica's music too.
Yeah.
Mater Baba Ganoush. Bad Business is definitely sending a message to everyone in the locker room. Beware, I am here to bring the business and show you what bad business is all about.
This is good. I like this. You should see his promo. There it is.
Did you see? Oh my. Oh my. Did you see what I just did to that kid? Mater? Moment of silence. Okay. All right. Enough of that. He had heart, but he didn't have any brains. And unfortunately, it's going to take a lot more than that to even buck business. So Pro Wrestling 225, just make this known as a public service announcement. There's a whole new hitter in PW 225, and his name is Business. Bad Business.
Okay. Shades of Bad News Brown and
Yeah.
the IRS there. Yeah, IRS used to wrestle with Erwin R. Shyster.
Yeah, he used to wear slacks in a suit. Also, Mr. Hughes wore a whole suit.
Yeah. I don't remember Mr. Hughes. I remember IRS though.
He came along, he was like 92 or 93.
Came in 91, 92. He was tag team champions with Ted DiBiase.
Yeah.
3-time. Yeah, they were called Money Inc. I remember that. And right, I remember when they fought the Mega Maniacs, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 9, which was which I wish they would have made. I think it would have been better had they made Hulk Hogan and Brutus win the titles, but I think Hogan was ego tripping because he ended up getting the title that night from Yokozuna after he beat Bret Hart. Yeah. So, what did you think of him?
He's pretty good for a beginner. I see some areas he could work on as related to his character. I mean, he's got a good gimmick, but he has to work on that presence. I mean, that's the thing that's going to get you over with fans is having that presence that makes people look at you. I mean, if he's Bad Business, he should have sort of like a serious gimmick similar to like what Vladimir Kozlov has. He just comes in, beats people up, and that's the end of it. Or he should have a little bit of a swagger, like a guy who's like, he's a professional guy, but he's got swagger where he just comes in with this real confidence and then he beats him up, and then he just does things like with flamboyant flourishes, like he just dusts his hands off or something like that to show how he handles business very quickly and efficiently. So those are the things he could work on, because the gimmick is good, but the character just needs those little touches to make the character pop. And if you put the little touches on the character, that's the thing that's going to make it pop. And when you cut the promos and you have a good character, you can really get people into your character. So that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I remember, I didn't remember, I see a picture of Chris Hughes. I don't remember him. I do remember, but I see a lot of people do. Mr. Hughes is Devon Dudley's brother. Okay, it's good to know. I know that he was, who else I remember from back in the day? I remember Ravishing Rick Rude before I remember him when he was in the Heenan family as a wrestler, but I remember when he became the insurance policy for DX when they started the Attitude Era, and he would, he wore a suit and tie, but I mean, he would knock motherfuckers out. He would knock people out when they were fighting DX. I remember when Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, faced Shawn Michaels in London, England.
Yep.
for the European title, and he dropped the belt to Shawn because Shawn, he used his clout, I guess, with Vince McMahon to get the title even against Davey Boy there. But that was interesting too. But yeah, keep up the good work, Shawn. I mean, Ryan as well for the bad business gimmick. I think it can go far.
Yeah.
But Southeast Dusty was in. She says, Southeast Dusty says, Peace Fella came in time for the wrestling talk. All right. Yeah, I like wrestling. Yeah, most definitely. I miss the Monday Night Wars was cool back then. But WCW, they really screwed up by just leaking money.
Yeah.
Like they did.
And they gave a lot of big contracts, and they didn't really book a lot of good talent. I mean, once Hogan left, they had those big contracts, and that's what bled them out. The thing is that when you have a wrestling league, you have to really focus on creating new talent. Yes, you have the old talent there, like Hogan and people like that, to bring the people in, but you have to create new stars. And the sad part is, it was around 2000, they were starting to build new stars in Steiner and Booker T that were homegrown. And
Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg was already on his way out, but it was like Booker T, Scott Steiner, Eddie Guerrero, but Eddie Guerrero had left. So, but they had the talent, but they just didn't know how to book it.
Right. I thought Eddie left when WCW was closing.
Yeah, he did leave. He and Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko,
they left and went to WWF. I remember that.
Yeah.
And right, but Goldberg came in like 90, and 98 was his best run, and where WCW made a huge mistake was when they had that Hulk Hogan versus Goldberg match on Nitro. Now, I look at it, you can look at it in hindsight and say, wow, they missed a big money grab because they could have put that on pay-per-view and it was wiped it out. But back in the day, the Nitro Wars were just that popular.
Yeah.
Like Bischoff was about, winning the ratings. And there's a reason why they were not beating Monday Night Raw for like 84 weeks in a row. And, they obviously did something right, but in the end, they thought they did something right, but in the end, Vince McMahon, he outsmarted them, I should say, because he continued to focus on building the youth and the young talent because that's what was going to get
that was the great advantage he had, because he had really rebuilt his roster. I mean, he got The Rock, he got Stone Cold, then he brought in the Hardys and Edge and Christian, and he was building all this young talent. And sadly, WWE is missing the boat on young talent right now. And that's the thing that got them over in the Attitude Era and helped them win, but they're not doing the thing that got them over. It's like, this is the thing you need to do, is go for these young talents. And that's where AEW has them, because AEW is focusing on young guys and getting them over. While they're using Chris Jericho to get people in from the older group, they're also bringing in local talents like Orange Cassidy and the younger guys like Darby Allin, and they're the guys who are getting super over because their stuff is fresh.
Yeah, I was trying to think of that vanilla midget comment that Nash did, but that was his way of taking a shot at like Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit and those guys, because they were great technical wrestlers, but you didn't think that he didn't on a big scale. And most of the wrestlers I could think of, especially ones we grew up as a kid watching in the late 80s, early 90s, and I remember when there was Saturday Night Wrestling. Those wrestlers weren't like Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior are not great technical wrestlers at all, especially the Warrior. But Randy Savage was a better technical wrestler than those guys, but they had the personalities.
Yeah.
When Hulk Hogan was hurt, everybody was hurt. When you could feel the Ultimate Warrior getting up, the energy coming when he would start shaking the ropes and then start doing his little dance every time, you kept trying to hit him and he was just shaking it off. You could feel the energy in the audience that was pulling him through. So, I mean, he knew what he was doing on that end, but but Randy Savage, the Macho Man, woo, yeah. I liked him as well. I remember the storyline where he and Jake the Snake Roberts went at it, where Jake the Snake put the cobra on his arm. I remember having a heart attack when Jake the Snake threw the python on on him, threw Damien on him, right? Because Damien was the snake. Do want to ask you something though. What did you think when you were a kid growing up in the '80s and you saw Hulk Hogan? I mean, did you look up to him as a wrestling fan?
Not really. I mean, I liked his wrestling, but there were other better wrestlers out there. I mean,
Yeah.
the Macho Man was far more exciting. Ultimate Warrior was far more exciting. But he was interesting, but he wasn't the thing that really got me to watching mostly, because I watched for the other wrestlers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was all Hulk Hogan. I was a Hulkamaniac full blood. Just I love the theme song "Real American," which actually wasn't his theme song. It was the Midnight Express's theme song uh, with Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham. And Mike Rotunda actually is the IRS. He's Erwin R. Shyster. He was the father of Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So he was funny. But when Hogan, I guess a lot of people were even hurt when Hogan when he had that racial shit going on in 2016 and WWE fired him. But I remember WWE kind of for years, and you think about it, they fed a lot of those stereotypes too, like Roddy Piper wearing the half black, half white uh, makeup on at WrestleMania 6. I remember he had uh, Booker T when Booker T joined the WWF, and Triple H had that storyline about uh, Booker T never going to be a champion because he didn't fit the description, and he was, taking pot shots at him on his criminal background and so forth, and his hair. So all of that had, racial connotations. So it's interesting now when WWE, they've become a social justice warrior when they weren't like that, years ago.
Yep. But they really don't. If you look at the way they treated Kofi, that's the thing that really irks me. It's like he was a champion for 6 months, and then they beat him up and had him sent out in 15 seconds by Brock Lesnar, and we've never heard him talk about his championship ever again. So that was one of those things that really irked me about WWE. They haven't really been good on developing their black wrestlers outside of The Rock, and it's really irritating because there's so much good black talent. I mean, guys like Booker T and R-Truth, they got better opportunities in WCW and NWA where they were champions than they did in WWE, and that's just a sad thing. I mean, we actually had Ron Simmons, who was the first black WCW champion. We had Booker T, who was a black WCW champion. And we had R-Truth, who was an NWA champion. But WWE just does not do black wrestlers very well. I mean,
They don't. But The Rock is really pushed. Honestly, The Rock, he's pushed more Samoan.
Yeah.
Anything than, and that's just being real. That's not a shot at, I like The Rock. I grew up loving his stuff. He was great on the mic. He had personality. Not in the early years, because when he was Rocky Maivia, that's when the Rocky Sucks chant had started against him. But when he became a heel and joined the Nation of Domination, that was another thing Vince did. He changed all of that. And but they do a horrible job with their black talent. I think WCW, and I heard of allegations of racism from there, but I think in the end, when they started to have Booker T more active in the singles competition, of course, I liked Harlem Heat as a tag team.
Yeah.
Stevie Ray has a podcast. Stevie Ray is real cool, and but I think but it was man. I'm just thinking, man, those were some great times with wrestling, bro. But
yeah.
Yeah, but Kofi, they did him bad. But I remember the Nitro Girls too. I loved them. Did you have a favorite Nitro girl?
No, I never watched Nitro Girls. I didn't even have cable back then. I was trying to get on my feet at that time in my 20s. Still am trying to get on my feet, but I was really struggling back then. I was like, I didn't have any cable. I had to hear from my cousin in junior high school about what went on.
Yeah. Southeast, before we go, she said WWE is trying to make up for their nonsense by putting out MVP Benjamin Lashley, R-Truth, and Cruz on Raw Heavy.
Yeah, they are doing a pretty decent job with them in the Hurt business, but I don't know. They need to really give us a black champion the way they gave us Kofi. I mean, the talent is there, but just WWE is too afraid to take a risk because they're afraid of alienating their white audience. But I figure go ahead and take the risk. I mean, you took the risk with The Rock, and it paid off high dividends. People love Booker T. They loved the King Booker gimmick back in the day where he would play the formal British guy, and then when you got in his face and said something he didn't like, he went ghetto. I mean, that was one of the most fun characters I ever saw. And then, I mean, the characters are, I mean, Bobby Lashley is pretty good. I mean, if he could get more time on the mic, he could be good. And you have the talent. We just got to know how to book it and use it. It's right there, they're waiting for them. But WWE has to get out of its fear of pushing black talent.
Apollo Crews.
Yeah. It's there. You just got to take the champ and push it.
Yeah. Before we leave, Shawn, there is something I almost forgot. I did want to talk about this new footage that was leaked with regards to the George Floyd incident. And I think you talked about it. And from seeing preliminary comments that have been on from different, like on CNN, they posted it on their YouTube page. And I think they have 3,400 likes to like 11,300 dislikes. People are, I guess, saying why we're just seeing this footage. One person wrote, why people are going to realize I died for this wacko, talking about George Floyd, because it seemed George Floyd was obviously in great distress when he saw the police officers. But and I'm going to just if I can share the clip very briefly. This does not, in the end, and this is just going to be, I guess the edited clip, because the other clip is 8 minutes over.
For starters, the Hennepin County District Court and the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office are trying to figure out how the Daily Mail got this video, but nonetheless, it has been published. It shows a combination of footage from the body cameras of now former officers Thomas Lane and J. Alexander King during what became some of George Floyd's final moments. And again, a warning, some of what you're about to see may be considered.
Now, in all fairness, this is edited, so.
Put your hand up there. Put your hand up there. Hands on the wheel.
This partial body camera video obtained by the Daily Mail showing former officer Thomas Lane pointing a gun at George Floyd within 25 seconds of he and former officer J. Alexander King knocking on the window of the car Floyd was in. They were responding to a call over a fraudulent $20 bill being used at the store across the street. Officers next seen here trying to get Floyd out of the vehicle. He's eventually pulled from the car and cuffed. Based on CNN's viewing of the complete body camera footage, this is the first of two struggles. The second, much more forceful, as officers try to get Floyd into the police squad car. Floyd says he's claustrophobic. Soon, he's being pushed in on one side by King and pulled in on the other by Lane, seen in video obtained by the Daily Mail. This is the first time George Floyd says, "I can't breathe," based on CNN's previous viewing of the video. They fall out on Lane's side and go to the ground to what's now become an infamously familiar position. Floyd's neck under the knee of Derek Chauvin. This is from the perspective of King's camera, where not long after, Lane asks if Floyd should be moved. Floyd loses consciousness shortly after and is pronounced dead at the hospital. Chauvin, now charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter. Lane, King, and Tu Tao are charged with aiding and abetting second-degry murder and manslaughter. None of the former officers have entered a plea, though Tao and Lane have asked for their cases to be dismissed, and King's attorney says he plans to plead not guilty. Attorneys for the four officers either declined comment or did not respond.
Now, the attorney for the Floyd family, Ben Crump, released a statement in response to the leaked video saying, in part, the more evidence you see, the more unjustifiable George Floyd's torture and death at the hands of the police becomes. Now, I mentioned the court is investigating this leak. Separate from that, motion filed by CNN and other networks with this court to fully and publicly release this footage, only about 26 minutes or so, dramatic as we've seen, have leaked, and the footage that I, along with a select few others, viewed earlier this summer was over an hour's worth of footage between those two body cameras.
Okay. So yeah, that is the end of that. You guys, if you see my mouse right here, you can click on that. I think that has the full 8-minute, 31-second clip. I also saw it on the Daily Mail. There's still nothing that justifies, even if you say the video is edited and so forth, there's still nothing to me, especially legally, that justifies the taking of Mr. Floyd's life. The knee on the neck, and clearly still was extreme. If once he's handcuffed. When you say resisting arrest is really a charge that all the police officers use for anything. If you jerk away from the police, they could call that resisting arrest. When they grab you, especially if they want to arrest you, that could be called resisting arrest. Or if you run up to the officer or something, they could call you assault.
Yeah.
The police officer, they like that. And Shawn, I know we've been here for a while, but just click. But I did want to get thank you for being here. I did just want to get your final take on the George Floyd incident, if you could.
Well, it's clearly a murder taking place in front of us, but what's even worse than the murder is this leaked video. This leaked video is designed to gaslight the public out here and prospective jurors and try to make it look like it's George Floyd's fault that he lost his life. So what they're trying to do by releasing this body cam video, by leaking it, is trying to gaslight people into believing that this crime didn't happen and make them believe that, okay, this is in some way sort of justified. But what we saw in that video really wasn't justified. We clearly saw excessive force, and we saw, as I saw in that video, a murder take place right in front of us. And this was something that I'm seeing even more egregious than the murder of George Floyd is the gaslighting that white supremacy is trying to do in this case. They're trying to try to convince people that they didn't see what they saw, and they're trying to make it where they try to manipulate your mind and make you think, oh, this isn't as bad as you think it is, when it's clearly, again, a case of racial profiling, which started in that Cup food store. It's not about him being on the drugs or the anxiety attack or whatever argument they're presenting. Excuse me. It's about the use of force, and it's about the excessive use of force against this black man and the culture of police brutality that fosters all across this country. I mean, this case just is another one like Eric Garner and Michael Brown and many others and Trayvon Martin that shows us how our criminal justice system is separate and unequal. And we see even our media is separate and unequal, promoting a white supremacist narrative to try to vindicate these officers by gaslighting people, which shows again how unethical our media is. Because to say that we didn't see a murder take place, people all over the world saw this murder taking place, and now we have all these people casting doubts, and that just shows how they're trying to make it where they devalue a black man's life right in front of us. And again, it's really egregious because they're trying to gaslight you into believing that a murder of a black man didn't take place when we clearly saw a murder take place. And sadly, there are so many taking the bait, and that's the scary part about this, is it shows how gullible some people are.
Just look at the comments. Imagine dying in a protest for this weirdo.
Yeah.
Travel 4K.
I've seen them, and it just shows how gullible people are as related to the media.
They were looking for.
I mean, any objective person can see that that was a murder taking place. So this is the ironic part is you heard people had said that Donald Trump said he could kill somebody in a crowd and get away with it. And here we have, ironically, these officers killing somebody in a crowd and practically getting away with it and looking to get away with it. And people not even thinking critically and saying, hey, everything you said about Donald Trump is right here in this case. And everything you said about Trump trying to shoot somebody, he said he could get away with it. We have people trying to do with this Derek Chauvin and these other 4 officers, and the mainstream media is helping with them, allowing them to participate in the very same thing that Donald Trump said that he would be able to do. We have it being done on the other side with this mainstream media.
Yeah, mainstream media sucks. CNN did a piss poor job with this too, as always. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why people don't like CNN. And if you're going to show the whole video, show everything. Because honestly, if there was leaked footage, they wanted that to be shown, whoever leaked that. And my thinking is it really isn't leaked footage. I think they have the whole footage there. They're just choosing not to show all of it.
Well, their long-term plan.
CNN has it too.
They have a long-term plan, and again, the game is chess, not checkers. And what they want to do is make sure that after everybody's vented their emotions and they've gotten their symbolic gestures out, like getting rid of Uncle Ben and Aunt Jemima, they get back to business as usual. So this is a chess game, and sadly, most black folks are so busy playing Candyland with these Black Lives Matter protests, they can't see the big picture as related to the chess game going on. And here we have them making a power move to take one of the power players off the board, the American public and the international public, by gaslighting them. And this gaslighting has practically proven effective if we look at all the comments being presented.
Yeah, most definitely. And people, you got to just pay attention to things, because it's important when you hear media say this, or even when you hear new black media like myself or Shawn talk about these issues. Don't just take our words for granted. Go and research this stuff and look at it. We look at this information and we offer our viewpoint from it, and we give you all an opportunity to examine it for your own eyes, and you guys make that determination. Certainly, what happened with George Floyd was unacceptable. It was clear police brutality. What happened to him, the man, by putting a knee on his neck. And clearly, if they looked at it, the other thing I'd like to point out too, and no, I don't have the full video, but when the officer, from what I saw from the 8-minute clip, walked up to the vehicle and had him open up the door with the gun drawn, they never told him why he was being placed in handcuffs. They never read him his rights. They never told him what this was about. He probably was just sitting there. I think he was with some other people. He was waiting to pick up a girlfriend, if I'm not mistaken. She was standing right there when the cops were taking him out. And regardless of what his criminal record is, they didn't know that until they stopped him. So, or not even not just till they stopped him, but till they didn't know that when they stopped him, and they didn't know it until hours later after they killed him, what his record and stuff was, but that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. So they're trying to demonize him and make him into the bad guy. This is classic white supremacy. Whenever something happens to a black man, they try to find. They find his past and try to dig stuff up out of his past, and then they try to smear him. And now, after the smearing, they now want to go out here and brainwash the public into turning against him. I mean, these are classic white supremacist tactics being placed in front of us. And sadly, Black Lives Matter they're not even a black organization. They don't know what's going on. But black men do know what's going on. We know about the tactics that white supremacy uses. And their whole goal is to get these guys acquitted so they can get back to business as usual, because they don't value black life and they don't care about black life.
No, they do not. They do not care about black life at all. It's a front. Shawn James, you've been here for an hour and 55 minutes. I appreciate it, my friend.
All right.
You guys, thank you so much. Please subscribe to this channel, Bluetooth 786. Subscribe to Shawn's channel, Shawn James. He does videos practically every day. And he has that new book, Eternal Night, that'll be coming out for Halloween.
Yes.
For Halloween. And he also has The Man Crisis, The Temptation of John Haynes. You can see the link there to Amazon.com.
All right. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I said thank you for putting those links up because it really helps.
Oh, anytime, no problem. I'd ask you all to please donate to the channel, GBoo2786, as well as my self-entitled channel. You can, donate to the channel at the Cash App, excuse me. I have the ticker usually at the bottom, and let me put that up right fast. The ticker, of course, is Gavin. The Cash App is Gavin Richard Esquire ESQ. You also can donate at Google Pay and this is Shawn's Cash App there. The Google Pay is right there. That's the ticker at the bottom. Please donate Gavin Richard Esquire or Google Pay gavin.grich1@gmail.com. Anyway, Shawn, thank you again, man.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Some other time. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Gavin Richard for Gavin Richard Presents, and we will see you on the other side. Thank you again. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night, Shawn.